Hey, it's Caitlin with the Backcountry Crochet, and I'm here today to kind of do an update on my June progress for my 2024 crochet book blanket. For those of you tuning in for the first time, welcome. I am making a 2024 book blanket. Now, instead of doing a temperature blanket where I track the temperature of each day for the year 2024, I decided to track instead the books that I read for the year of 2024. I have a different color representing different genres, whether it's an audiobook, adult or young adult, and then my rating. So this is where I'm at so far. I'm still catching up on my May books on this blanket, but this video is my accountability video to make sure I actually am staying on top of this blanket and documenting the books that I have read for each month. So this month I did get up through a little bit more than I did for the month of May. May was a rough month. I think only 4 books. This month I was able to get through 6 books. It's without commuting to work every day. I think that actually adds up for a lot for my audiobooks on how many books I can get through. I've been a little bit more active since it's summer for me. Life of a teacher is great during summer. So only 6 books for this month. So the first book that I finished in the month of June was kind of a special one because it was my 30th book for this year, which originally back in January, 30 books was my goal for the entire year. So we're halfway through the year and I have successfully met my yearly goal for the year of 2024. I'm not really sure how much room I really have on this blanket because it's getting pretty big. Probably should have chosen a thinner weight yarn, but you know, lessons learned for next time. My 30th book, or the first one for June, was Divine Rivals, which I had seen online. I'd heard there's some hype around it, and I get it. It is really good. It was 2 competing journalists. We've got war correspondents. We have family falling apart, and someone like the main character is struggling to try to keep her family together. We have not a ton of gods and goddesses, but we have some gods and goddesses in there. Not like, Greek god level of, god presence in there. But they're definitely there. Some magical element, but I wouldn't say it was a fantasy where it was magic everywhere kind of thing. It felt very real life with just this slight magical element just around the corner and just kind of there, but not a huge presence. Definitely recommend it. For me, got my highest rating, 3 out of 3 rows. If I was doing on a 5 scales, this definitely would be a 5 out of 5 stars, not a 4 like some of my 3 out of 3s are. Definitely recommend this book. I have not read the sequel yet. I think it's one that is on my to be read list. So we'll see if I get to that this year, depending on availability at the library for me. My second book for the month of June was a sequel to a book that I've read before. It was The Life Below. Now this is a sequel to a book I read a few months ago for this project. It's a sequel to The Final 6. So it's a science fiction for me. I got 3 out of 3 rows. It's good. I think I like the first book better. The sequel was still good, still up there. It's had space travel, not like Star Wars type space travel, but more realistic current space travel, people on rocket ships and things like that. We have some covert threats that the characters are trying to handle, some political tension on Earth that's kind of creating problems for them up in space. We have this question of potential aliens. It was good. My The reason why I'm not as over the moon about it as I thought I would be was because of the ending. The ending for me just felt incomplete. It felt like it was setting up for a third book, but as far as I can tell, there isn't a third book that's at least out, and I can't, from my, like, granted limited, but from my online research of what I did, I don't know if there's going to be a third book. So there were some plot points that were left unanswered for me that I kind of, like, not major ones, but just some where I, like, still had questions that I was hoping a third book might answer. But it's still good, still recommend. The third book I read this month was a small, I would call it like a novella. It was 100 pages, maybe a little less. It was a science fiction one, which seems to be a trend. I've got 2 science fiction ones this month. It was okay. I gave it 1 out of 3 stars, and I think it's just like the ideas and everything were really good. It wasn't as fleshed out as I would have liked. I feel like this story, it's in a series, I don't know how many there are, but this one could have been a lot longer, and I would have loved the book. There was a lot of potential, but there just wasn't enough world building for me to fully understand what was going on. Early on, as like there was a lack of character development where we had like months happen in like a page, and it's like, oh, and then suddenly people were friends. You're like, it would have been nice to see the development of friendship, the cultural differences and cultural tensions. It wasn't as fleshed out, like I said, and I think that really could have added a lot to the story. So that way when the drama and the, all the problems happen, we're a little bit more invested as a reader. I don't think that investment was there just based off the length and how quickly it went through the story. Good. We'll see if I follow up and look at the sequel. Again, the investment isn't there for me to really be dying to know what happens after it ended. But it might be worth checking out for like a quick read if you just wanted like a short book and explore something new. Now, book 4 for me this month was one that I feel like I'm really late to the game with. It's definitely a book that I've heard of for a while. I believe it was published in 2015, but it was Everything, Everything. So good. Why was I sleeping on this book? Why did I not read it sooner? Like, I don't understand it. Like, what have I been doing to not be reading this book? It's a young adult realistic fiction. 3 out of 3 rows for me. You have like first love, you have the element of self-discovery that really good young adult books add in those elements. And for the main character, it was crazy. Like the self-discovery was so powerful. There are little illustrations throughout the book that like you can kind of see into the journal of the main character, and it was just really good. It was a heartwarming one. There's a threat of illness and death for the main character, kind of keeping her from the love interest, and I don't know. There's element of all of that good fuzzy young adult stuff, but you also have this element of what does it mean to live? Like, are you living if you're just surviving? And like, what risks are worth it for somebody to live a full life? And it was just, I'm so repetitive on this one. It was good. Please read it. It's good. Don't sleep on it like I did. If you haven't read it, take this as your sign to check it out, because it's worth your time. Now, book 5 was the only adult book that I read this month. It was okay. I definitely prefer the young adult books. I don't know if it's just, I don't know why. It's just, it's not necessarily, maybe it's escapism, but this book was New Couple in 5B. It's the only adult book, like I said, that I read this month. 2 out of 3. It was good. The premise was interesting. I don't know, I keep coming back to character development in this video for some reason, but the mystery and intrigue were really good. The character development of some of the side characters, and I don't know, was Some of them were fleshed out, but then some of the character development was just very, oh, and they were in love. And you're like, oh, but why? I don't see it from anything that's happening in the story, but it's supposed to be this big passionate love, and I didn't get it from what was written. It also, like, the main character just seemed to have, like, all this chaos is happening in her life, and she keeps coming back to one problem over and over, and it's like her life was not complete until she had a kid. And I get that that's a very real feeling for some people, but that just felt like for a bit of the book, it felt like that's all that mattered. It was, oh, we'll have hope because we will have a kid and have a family and make a change, and oh no, I can't have a kid, my life is over, it's terrible. And it just kind of like, when all of this mystery is happening around her, it kept coming back to that, and I was just kind of over it. And that might be insensitive, but it felt more like a ploy to make us feel bad for the character instead of me actually caring about the character. It felt more like a literary tool than a necessary plot point. Again, not trying to be insensitive, the delivery of it, I felt was a little heavy-handed on that element. That's just me. It was still good. Would I recommend it to people? No. Would I say, if you were going to read it and ask me if I read it, I'd say, yeah, you might as well finish. But I wouldn't say like, hey, book recommendation, and I'd hand it to you. So, but that's just me. I'm sure there's some people who loved it. Now, the final book that I read for the month of June was a young adult fantasy, and like a true fantasy. And it was really good. I don't remember how I stumbled I don't know how I stumbled upon it, excuse me. But I'm really glad I did. It's full of magic. You've got different people from different realms who have different magic. There's a curse. Well, the whole society, it seems, is cursed. Again, elements of self-discovery. Like I said, the really good young adults have that element. It was just really good, really creative throughout. But like towards the end, there's this massive twist that I did not see coming. Now, sometimes I feel like I can see the twists, and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. That was creative. It wasn't like that. And sometimes the twists are just so far out there that you're just trying to create drama. But like the elements were there along the way. I was looking elsewhere. I wasn't really paying attention to those details that the author left for us to try to pick up on what was going on. I don't know. It was a good twist. I have the second one on hold, and I'm really curious to kind of see where it goes, and see how this story continues with Isla. Definitely a recommend if you like fantasy and young adult. I definitely would recommend it. Again, kind of a niche area. Not everyone. That's young adult's not for everyone, but it's for, if you like it, check that one out. So this month I definitely had more 3 out of 3 stars. I feel like it had more hits for me. 4 out of my 6 books got like my highest rating. Definitely I think some of those out of those 4, some definitely were better than others that I'd recommend a lot more highly, such as Divine Rivals, Everything, Everything, and Lightlark. I think are the 3 I would definitely recommend to people. All young adult. If you haven't noticed, I like young adult. But please let me know if there are any book recommendations you have. I really should probably branch out and read more than just fantasy, because I've had a lot of that lately. Maybe some adult books. If you've got some good if you've got some good adult books that you would recommend, please write them below. I'm kind of running out of some book ideas of what to read, and I'd love to see what other people recommend. So hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below, tell me what books you think everyone needs to read. I'd love to read those. But thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time for my July update video.